Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I have a question on the new Dream Kit.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so the list of oils that came out in the newsletter was
Mhm.
all the different dream oils, and there's a couple of oils that start with a P. I can't pronounce it. Can you maybe spend some time talking to us about the
Sure.
oils and
Let
how
me
to
look it
use
up
them? Yeah,
so I'm
they
not
sound
doing it
amazing.
yeah, from memory. Um, right. Okay, so unconscious we've had in previous classes, and it's probably better to call it the unconscious rather than just unconscious, but um, uh, basically, that is to relax the smooth muscle of the digestive tract and respiratory tract, which helps to stimulate more of the intuitive side of the mind. Basically keeps the normal everyday mind from being too overstimulated with sensory information. And very relaxing. Intuition is beginning to harmonize the two sides of the brain. And when you start to harmonize the two sides of the brain, the more intuitive side kind of takes like a little bit more of a lead role. And then the normal everyday mind processes the information that comes in from the intuitive mind. And remember, when I say intuitive mind, it's the part of the mind that goes beyond sensory information. So you can be drawing upon the unconscious, you could be drawing upon uh, information coming from the higher soul, coming from reflection, drawing upon realization. And so the intuitive blend was made to kind of stimulate that what happens when you're in dream time, but to be able to do it in like a waking state. Then there is a blend called Paracelsus, and the reason that it's called that is just Paracelsus was this guy back in the day, a long, long time ago, and it is the first time that like a liniment was like in a written form. They say that like he produced the first liniment, and so basically herbs and like an alcohol or a vinegar or some sort of base like that. And in those times, a lot of times they would do it with like soaps, which was like ash mixed with a bunch of other things. And so his was more of a almost like a medicated soap, but it was something you just put on the body and left. And it was considered like a cure-all. And the 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 purpose of it is to basically stimulate the parasympathetic part of the nervous system, which is your involuntary part of your nervous system. It stimulates the rest and repair like function. A lot of times when we're doing activity, you could say we're in fight flight, or you're just in action mode. And sometimes when you come home at night or over several months, you might be a little wound up, and it's the nervous system is leaning a little bit more towards activity and a little bit less towards rest and repair. And when you don't go into rest and repair very much, you don't really process things as deeply as you could. And that also starts to become a precursor to inflammatory responses in the body. And so this liniment or this blend could be used for, treating inflammatory conditions, for treating psychological issues, just because when you go into rest and repair, it becomes easy to let go of things. It becomes easy to release things, right? And so I wouldn't say like if the adrenals were overactivated, you could use it for that. There might be some other things that might work a little bit better, but for helping the body go into that recovery mode, regardless if you're in fight, flight or not, that blend is really, really good for it. Uh, I did a kind of a big dosage of it earlier in the week, And I did it kind of midday, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna get some stuff done. Yeah, I did a bath and I was pretty done. Like I did nothing else the rest of the day, even though I had a to-do list. And so it would be good to be done like at night before you go to bed rather than um, uh, midday. I was doing an experiment, and so it worked. And so it really puts you into a place where you just kind of go into that repair kind of mode, and the mind kind of quiets down, and you're able to process things a little bit better in sleep time. And then the dream body, mm, it's you really don't have like a dream body like you do your mental body, your physical body, but it's a set of responses, you could say, or a set of functions. And so it's stimulating some aspects in the endocrine system, immune system, and nervous system to help deepen your ability to go into deeper states of dreaming. And so you can use it at night before you go to bed to increase and improve sleep. You can use it to, help with the reduction of stress and the stress response. But you also will process things more deeply in your sleep. You'll kind of have realizations or draw conclusions to a higher degree when you're sleepy, and can improve meditation, things of that nature. I mean, it helps the body get like more deep, restful sleep. And so, like when I was started using it a few days ago, I realized like I'm a little bit more tired than I thought, And so, like doing a little bit of extra sleep, like normally about 5:30 in the morning, I start kind of waking up, and then I pretend sleep for about an hour or so, and then I start getting up. And yeah, since I've been using it, um, I'm waking up at like 7:30, like I'm getting a couple extra hours of sleep because I just let myself wake up without an alarm most of the time. Not every time, but most of the time. And so it's been very helpful for that. And you can just do it without the pattern, or if you want to go deep, you can go with the pattern. But I mean, sometimes I'm just using it without the pattern. I'm just doing them in a sequence. I do it also when I'm wanting to treat something psychological, when I'm wanting to release something, because it puts you a little bit more in that dream type state when you want to release something, even though you're awake. And so it becomes very easy to let go of, an old trauma, old fear, deep-seated stresses, the tendency for your body to armor against just the bombardment of everyday, wear and tear of, interacting with people, and, aggressions and things like that. And so, aggressions directed towards you. And so one of the things that we haven't gone super deep into, we've talked about some of the things for like psychic protection, but we are going to be going a little bit deeper on it. And part of what happens with psychic when people are being aggressive towards you or violent towards you is it does stimulate a bit of we've talked about how it stimulates responses in the immune system, nervous system, and endocrine system, but on a deeper level, like with more explanation, is it can aggravate pains that you already have in your body, and it can stimulate the inflammatory response, and even make the inflammatory response hyper reactive. So, normally it would take this much to make inflammation happen in your body. When you're hyper reactive, it could take this much. It doesn't take very much for you to go into this like inflammatory response. And so with that, your body starts to have more food sensitivities, more allergies, more aches and pains. Um, and, it's basically tied to the aging process. Inflammation is directly tied to the aging process. You could actually say the aging process is an inflammatory response. And so even variations of this, we're going to talk about over the next few weeks through the newsletter, how to utilize variations of things that are in this for dealing with, toxic environments, people being adversarial with you. And it's kind of a precursor to, whether you do it or not, it's a precursor to what we're going to be doing with the alchemy of the materialization class, which is, we're calling it a materialization class, but I don't know that it's really like a materialization class, like how you focus on goals and things. It's basically a way to condition the basic chakra and the pineal gland to basically heal and transform the environment. And it's tied to these 12 chemical processes in the zodiac. And so, it's tied to this 3-step process. One was cleansing the blood, one was the vital centers, and then this other part with the set of the 12 chemical processes. That is the third and like the final piece to all this. And so with that, a lot of what starts to happen is you start fleshing out forms of like psychic attack, aggression towards you. Most of it's unconscious, you're not really aware of it, but also like forms of like stress, things that pull your basic into like automatic response, and things that pull you away from processing information from the higher soul. And so it's a way to do the maintenance in between of doing the big practice with alchemy of materialization. It would be a way to do maintenance in between, or if you're in a time of crisis, you could go through and do with it. It's another way to also help to allow like consciousness and perceptions to shift and change. When we're driven by our lower nature, which we all have it, we're all wrestling with that, and we wake up by degrees, but a lot of that is always tied to habits and automatic behaviors, automatic thinking. And so we try to come at it different angles to just keep unwinding the conditioning, so that as time goes by, the automatic responses begin to diminish, and you get to be more of who you are in the present time. You get to reboot yourself and kind of walk away from the past conditioning. And so the alchemy for the materialization is like a way to thoroughly go through and do that. But this was kind of like a short version. And these aren't even oils that are in the alchemy class. There's these blends that are just tied to these alchemical processes. We put what zodiac sign they're associated with in the booklet, but it's not so much about the zodiac sign itself. It's more about the alchemical process. And so, I try to do that for the vital centers. Like we made that one blend that's just the vital center, blend. It doesn't treat everything that the vital center class does, but if you're dealing with somebody who's not going to sit and do the whole class, or need some maintenance in between, it's a way to treat it without them, sitting down and doing the whole class. At least there's something there. And so this was an attempt to go through and do the things that we'll be doing in the alchemy class, alchemy for materialization, but without, you might be working with a patient, a client, or you just might want maintenance in between, or whatever. I wanted to have like a short version of how to be able to go through and treat it, and so this was the way to do it. When you do the alchemy of materialization, it's a much deeper process, and I find when I do it without even thinking, I become significantly more creative. Um, but to sit down and do the whole process all the time, it takes a few hours to sit through it and just fire through it. And it might be the end of the day and I don't have time to go through and do a 2 hour or 3 hour process or something. Um, so this is what I use in between that. Yeah. And so, we were talking about this actually even in the circles with Astara, because I'm doing some work for a couple different modalities, and one of them we are tying some of the work with the blood work, doing purification with the blood work, and the question was posed, like, how do you even go through and work on the vital centers and these alchemical processes, and the cleansing of the blood without having the process of the plants. And it's really hard to do it without a substance. In the old days, they would make these like elixirs and things that, they were part plants and part energy and part all kinds of things. And that's how they would do it. And then sometimes they would do it with ceremony. But, the plants are so good at going through and doing it. But if you didn't have that, how would you be able to do it? Like, especially this thing with the alchemical process of the zodiac. When we were looking at it, because it's briefly mentioned in some of the Astara writings, and it's briefly mentioned in some of the old alchemical writings, and there's no pictures or explanation on how to address it. And so it took me probably a decade to be able to come up with what I felt was an effective way to be able to go through and treat it. And my guess is that it was an inner practice, inner teaching, and it was passed down orally from teacher to student. And so, we've been building towards this for a while. Emphasizing the blood and the vital centers and really going deep on the vital centers. But the alchemy of the materialization class is actually kind of the next step that pulls together a bunch of the angel work and pulls together the materialization work and pulls together, psychological healing, it's starting to pull all these things together. And so, the dream kit was just kind of a way to have some maintenance, or like a short version for people who had busy lives, or like for me, I might not sit down and do the whole materialization or alchemy of materialization class. I travel with those oils all the time. You'll see me like I have a little polycarbonate case that's purple. Those are my alchemy of materialization oils that I have. And like at the end of the day, I sit to do them and I'll get through like 3 or 4 of them, and then I'll usually fall asleep, because the body's tired or whatever. But this, I can use it, fall asleep, and still be processing things the way that I should. And then when I do the materialization, the alchemy of materialization layout, it takes it like deeper, like that. And then there'll be a class, and I think it's in May or June, the I Am Presence will go even deeper into the limbic system. And I mean it literally with the blood And the vital centers, you're really unwinding the karmic patterns or the karmic imagery. And with the alchemy of materialization, you're really starting to unwind the effects of that information on your physiology and on your mind. And then the I am presence is tying together a bunch of the angel work. You know, they're not archangels. It's a lot of the normal angels are all tied into that practice, and you're just unwinding and connecting the mind body to a very high degree, and like it's all kind of being pulled together in this one big like process. And so the dream kit is like I keep saying, it's like a way of doing maintenance. It's a therapy unto itself. One of the ways that I like to use it is either doing energy healing with it, or doing the bowls, you know, the sounding of the bowls, or to use the 4 blends and go to sleep, or to pull out the dorje and bless for a while, and then go into like a meditation or the use of mantra. So it's almost like a gateway to open up a bunch of different things. But you know, you're reconditioning the basic chakra to be more of an ally rather than resisting the higher soul, and it really starts to activate and change the pineal gland and the mental permanency to a much higher degree. You know, both the dream kit is like the like small version of it, and then the materialization, alchemy of materialization, is like the big version of it. And so it's just kind of tying a bunch of things together. So threw it out there, and I put it in where there was information kind of with it, so it could be a standalone. It's something that practitioners could use if they're doing healings with individuals. You know, as we go through the summer, I kind of want, I'm shooting for that if people want to do aromatherapy sessions with people, they'll have the skill set to do it regardless of how you have evaluated the person. And if you're doing other healing modalities, whatever they might be, energy work, massage, talk therapy, you know, astrology, whatever it is, that these things can be put into place to augment the things that you're already doing. And so this dream kit is one of those pieces that we're putting forth. So
That's wonderful. And I also noticed that, so thank you for that profound and detailed explanation, Greg. On the website, just really quick follow-up, there is a oil that's called Dreaming.
yeah, that is just to stimulate the dream process. That's a even smaller version of the dream kit. Like that was made a long time ago for one of the classes, and I can't remember what class it was in, but the whole 4-step process didn't really kind of fit in, and the dream body didn't really do exactly what I wanted. So I made like a dreaming blend at the time to fit into the class. Letty probably knows what class we're talking about, but it's a smaller version. You could substitute the dreaming for intuition somewhat. You know, they're not the same, but they know each other. You know what I mean? They come from the same tribe, so to speak. And so it gets you in the ballpark. The other one that kind of gets you in that same ballpark is the planetary oil, Mercury. Mercury will get you in the same kind of ballpark. Yeah.
It's probably, it sounds like the kit is really the end to end. Using the
For
kit is
the materialization class, yeah, or the dream kit, yeah. The dream kit is good for. I was trying to make a kit that would be set up for like either doing a lot of self healing or like working with patients. You know, somebody who's working with somebody, and so you know it could actually even be folded into like the pain class, doing different kinds of pain work and things like that. Pain has a very profound effect on us, and um, it's not just the sensory information of the ouch, and there's a lot to it, and it affects our mental processes to a much higher degree than I think we give it credit for, or realize. And so like you've heard me say, the original pain class was almost 200 pages, I think, that booklet. And versions of like this dream kit were in there, but it was too complicated. Like, I taught it to a bunch of nurse practitioners. It took too much evaluation and too much interpretation to be able to apply it. And so, I keep like breaking it down. And, even like that blend Gilead that we have, that we use for things, that was in the some of the original pain classes. And eventually I pulled it out, and I thought we'll address it later in other classes and everything. But again, tied to when you have pain, you also start to have lower emotional responses. It starts to affect the instinctive mind. It starts to overstimulate the sensory mind, and it really starts to shut down the more intuitive part of your mind. And so, just ways of unwinding that. And so, whenever we're dealing with things like this, it's not like working with a computer where you can do this, and this, and it produces this result. You can, to a certain extent, but people are different. They come from different places. They have different experiences. They have different intensities. They have so many different things that it's almost like doing these like circles, and you kind of go through and do it, and then you come back around and you do like a variation of it, and you do this other variation of it. And for some people, the first circle might do it, the second circle, but you keep just kind of coming back at it, because really what you're doing by doing that is you're harnessing the law of cycles, which is the creative process. I mean, that is actually how the creative process works. And so you're kind of harnessing that creative process and then riding the coattails of it. But instead of it potentially spiraling down, it's spiraling more up. And so, there still might be high points and low points, but the thing is always moving more upward. And so the goal is to keep working these things in different ways, because we've had different experiences, we have different backgrounds, we have different genetics, we have all kinds of different pieces, and mental bodies. Even though we have some of the same mechanics, we process things somewhat differently. We learn things in different ways. And so by doing these loops, you kind of are able to hit kind of everything. And also, say if like for me, I learn really well when I hear it, right? But somebody else might be like reading it, or however, when you go through and you do these loops like this, you start to be able to increase your ability to process in all the different ways, because the brain is not overstimulated with the sensory activity, and you're moving past you're getting information that's beyond the senses. You're moving past just processing sensory information. And so, that starts to open up the gate of self-reflection and awareness and realization, and taking in information from the environment in a very different way, seeing patterns, seeing archetypes, and also being guided by the soul. And so, the goal is that. And if you think about, like, in the ones that have been in the classes over the last several weeks, a lot of people are having kind of big um, like intuitive insights. They're having flashes of like when they were sitting and being still, they had like guidance, like if I put my attention here or there, when I'm doing a mantra, or a piece of information comes in about a situation, or how to move forward in a difficult time. We're in difficult times, and so breaking away from the way things used to be and being able to be adaptive and be like intuitive in times really helps you to step away from the past as a spiritual practitioner, but also a practical application is also learning to adapt in a world that is changing pretty dramatically over the last like 3 years or so. And it's not going to go back to normal. It's changing into something different, and it just allows us to be able to put ourselves in the right place at the right time, so to speak.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Before we go to the next person whose hand's raised, I just want to kind of be logistical about the dream kit. People are wondering, how do we apply the roller balls? What's the pattern we use? Can you clarify the order of the oil?
It's all on the.
I didn't post it in the newsletter.
Oh, you
the
didn't?
whole protocol. I can do that here for you guys now, and I can send an email out too.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, I think we were setting it up as like if they got the kit. Like, is that what it was? Yeah. So
It's okay. I just posted it. I didn't
Yeah.
know if it was okay.
perfect. So she posted it.
As far as roller balls, would they put it on the specific centers?
You could, but actually it's just meant to be more like something that you inhale. And then a lot of times with something like this, I roll it on the heart and on the forehead. And sometimes you'll see me go like this. This is my neat little trick that I like to do with roller balls, is I roll it right on my nostrils. And then it's already got a little jojoba in it. And boom, I'm doing inhalations while I'm sitting there talking about people.
I mean,
So-
the applications come with the kit. So each time.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to remind everyone that.
And the sequence is the way that it's listed. So the way it's listed on the kit order on the site or in the newsletter, but the applications, there's like just doing them in order, and then there is a pattern for each one of them for like more advanced work.